Hey, thanks for joining. I'm your host, Chris Gennaro. My co-host is Peter Lloyd, and today we have Herb from Drawn and Quartered. How you doing?
Doing well. You guys?
Cool. Yeah,
Excellent.
we're doing great. Actually, let's start off with the show you guys are doing, Northwest Terror Fest, because there's a lot of bands on there, a lot of bands we've interviewed, so we're partial to them. It's got to be one of the first shows I'm thinking since the pandemic, and it's a big one. So I guess talk a little bit about how you got on there and what it means to play that show and how it's gonna, what you're looking forward to.
Well, looking forward to playing it, most obviously. It is the first, it will be the first live appearance since the pandemic. We have the side band Plague Bearer played a live show in July. That was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what we have on the horizon. Essentially just got it through, networking, working with people for a while, and finally worked for them to get us on the bill. And we're super excited because we're supposed to be playing the same day that Suffocational headline. There's some other really killer bands on that. Northwest Terror Fest, they kind of book a pretty diverse assortment of underground stuff. I mean, I'm a diehard, Black and Death head, but there's a pretty, a decent assortment to pull in a pretty good crowd for it. So yeah, we're pretty enthused, and we've got some brand new material that we haven't debuted yet with the new record, although some of the songs we have been playing live because they're older, but it's we're really looking forward to it. We're we've been talking about what kind of set we're going to do. Still not sure that we'll have a whole lot of time to play, but we'll still come out with all guns blazing and make people remember it.
Okay. Cool. Since you brought it up, let's talk about Plague Bearer. I know it was like the first name of your band, then you changed into Drawn and Quartered, and then you sort of brought it back. So I'm kind of curious what led to that and what's the genesis?
Well, yeah, Plague Bearer was the beginning. That was the name that Kelly decided on when he first put the band together, which was shortly before I started working with him. I saw his first Plague Bearer show. He saw my very first show, and it was actually after that, when the lineup that he had kind of fell apart, that he approached me and we started working together. And so he had the material written, so we got rehearsals done, went into a studio and recorded the first Plague Bearer demo. And the band kind of went on with different lineups and fits and starts until we started working with Matt Kaysen, the drummer from the first Drawn and Quartered record. Basically started working on mostly new material, and after a while decided that we wanted to go with a different name because I had always had the strong bolt thrower association with the Plague Bearer name. It's like seemed to kind of paint a picture right away. But anyway, we decided to change the name to Drawn and Quartered. And then after that, Plague Bearer basically became a flag under which other projects outside of Drawn and Quartered could happen. So there's there's a compilation CD released recently of all the archival materials, and they're the earliest. I guess could call it the middle. Plague Bear era, which I think it was probably around 99 or 2000 that it was recorded. And then there was another session later with a different guy playing drums. That became the Rise of the Goat 7-inch. And then that was basically it until more recently when we kind of reactivated it to kind of play with some friends and kind of just get some extra rehearsal time in, honestly, when we didn't have chances to have a lot of drum and quarter rehearsals. So it's kind of it's kind of taken on a new life now, and there's actually been new Plague Bear material composed for the first time since 2005 or something like that.
So are you guys going to do a Plague Bear album or an EP or something?
Well, there's actually a Plague Bear album fully recorded and done, and it's basically just waiting to come out. It's re-recording of all the old material that we basically have played live with the current lineup. So it isn't new material, but it's also slightly reinterpreted through how we play now. The current Plague Bear lineup has a friend of ours, Nihilist, from tons of bands in Oregon, the East Coast. Anyway, he's doing vocals, so we kind of have a double vocal thing going on, and either like trading off or just overkilling and causing vocular chaos hell. So it adds a little bit of an extra layer to the material that wasn't there before.
Cool. And yeah, because I know some of the old those old Plague Bear demos, they're not, they're demos. They're not, so it's going to be cool to hear that stuff. I assume you like up the production level 10 notches.
Yeah. It actually, the Cruciator dude helped us mix and master it, so it sounds fucking killer.
So he's in France, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess he's an audio engineer also or something?
Yeah, seems like he kind of tries to do the whole thing. But yeah, he seems to, be an audio engineer, runs a label, and, has a in-house PR person at least. I think let's just give a shout out to Kabar, who I hope I'm saying his name right, who hooked us up. I've been corresponding with him. He seems like a nice guy. So I guess he does most of the Cruciator stuff. Yeah, he does a PR. Lloyd or Luke or something is the main guy. So yeah, here's to him too.
I'm drinking iced tea, but.
How did you get hooked up with that label?
It was, again, just networking. I don't completely know because Kelly's the one that handles most of that. I'm an antisocial, not person. So, but yeah, it's probably just somebody that you come in contact with, perhaps someone that reached out, appreciating our material or something, and that was during the time that we were recording The One Who Lurks, and we kind of had some tracks that we had done ourselves, but kind of couldn't have made them into what that record was without his help. So basically, he kind of came in the middle or a little before part of that process, and then it's kind of just gone on from there.
And then he's releasing some of the backlog of catalog too, as well.
He's done some. He did a vinyl version of Hail Infernal Darkness, for which he'll forever be praised. Cannot be praised enough for that, making that happen. He did a reissue of a a CD reissue of To Kill Is Human. I'm not sure about if he's going to be doing more of the Moribund back catalog or not. I've heard some potential plans about that, and then potential other plans. So I don't really want to, necessarily say something that might not, might end up being a bunch of shit. So. But I think the good news, at least, is that it seems like there are people that are finally wanting to make it happen one way or another. So I think that hopefully we'll finally see vinyl reissues of the other back catalog albums that haven't been. I think some of the CDs are probably out of print, so yeah, it's nice to have a little more attention paid to that, because we've only got a few, I think, of like the Moribund era CDs other than the first one. So
yeah, in listening to your catalog back, it's cool that he's putting out To Kill Is Human, but it seems like your sound, like what is now your current sound, really came together with Hail Infernal Darkness. And just let me know if you think I'm onto something there, but that's the way when I listen through your catalog, that's the way it sounds to me. Like that's when it started to, like, that's your sound.
Yeah, I think that's a fair enough observation of it. For me, a lot of it happens at Extermination Revelry, when we change drummers and start playing with Dario Derna, who had a different style than Matt did on the first record. And that first record ended up the way it did because of kind of a couple of styles that really didn't fit well together, and we were kind of forcing it to fit. And so that's kind of what makes that record what kind of gives it its greatness and its flaws, kind of. But then, like, when we started working with Dario, we were a lot more on the same page. And so it was really easy to just start knocking out material. And so we basically kind of worked, continuously over the next couple of years, getting the material for that record, and then Return of the Black Death, and then Hail Infernal Darkness after that as well. But what I would agree with you on is that Hail Infernal Darkness is definitely where there was kind of the extra layer or several layers of darkness and evil added on. A lot of it being from some guitar layering that really gives like the added sinister effect. And then I was also, doing some extra, vocal doubling here or there, adding a little higher part or something that gave to add a little extra. And then I think also the material on that record is, very strong. So there's, lots of songs. There's a number of songs on that we still play in a live set, basically.
I guess let's use that as a segue. We didn't really talk about the new album yet, Congregation Pestilence. I think some of my favorite tracks on that record, it's making me think of it because those tracks are the ones with the dueling guitars. I think Oblivion Pilgrimage, I haven't noticed, like, just a fucking awesome track that just starts out just like blaring with dueling guitars, but you guys only have one guitarist, which I think is fascinating. So how does the live thing work, and how the fuck does he write all that shit for two guitars when he's one guitarist, or how do you practice it even?
Well, so I guess dialing back to the new record, thank you. We're really pleased with it. And yeah, there's, kind of an assortment of newer material that had been written more recently, most of which was a little bit off or unusual, like, Oblivion Pilgrimage, like you say, it's kind of got an unusual arrangement to it. And there were also some older songs that we've been playing. We just kind of figured let's lay all that down, and then good full length record. And so to that that song, that's obviously like, kind of a unique song. We think it turned out really strong. It was something that, from my perspective, like trying to write lyrics, it didn't actually get completed until close to the end because I was so unsure what to do with it. It's like you don't really have, you kind of have a verse, but it's like one part that goes on forever. You don't have a chorus, and then you only have 3 parts, period. And the other 2 parts don't even repeat. So it was really strange. And it wasn't actually until Kelly had recorded those leads over that main dirgy riff that it all clicked. And then it was like, it all made sense how to do it. And, it turned out to be a fucking real attention grabber. So we kind of put it earlier in the track listing. And so the to the guitars, we are one guitar band and have been for a long time. And I mean, essentially for our existence, it hasn't been entirely. We've tried to incorporate a second guitarist on a couple occasions. Actually started out with one really early on, but he flaked out super quick. The other ones haven't worked out. We've gotten to the point of being able to play some live shows with 2 guitars, and it adds a level of crush that just is not the same with one. That said, it's, since we've been a one guitar band for so long, he's figured out how to play a chord so it sounds like it's 2 different parts played at once, kind of. And the parts to play and the parts not to play, basically, when we're playing live. And there's still certainly some stuff that that you lose doing that. So it's not optimal, but it's just what we've been doing so far. We're still not necessarily planning to it would be ideal if we had somebody that we could call on to be a rhythm guitarist, because as far as the band dynamic, writing, etc., 3 people works out fucking perfect. We all get along really well, we all work together really well. We can get everything done ourselves, but it's just missing that extra layer of fucking death and the ability of Kelly, say, to like maybe put a little more into a lead than he would normally be able to, because he's so focused on having to come back into a riff or whatever. And then also, having that heaviness still when that's going on. So
you guys aren't necessarily looking for a full-time member, but you'd love to have a live member.
Yeah.
Guitarist.
Yeah. So hopefully we can make that happen.
So are you actively looking? Like, should people get in touch, or?
Well, people shouldn't come rushing us. No. I mean, there's some things going on, but it's more like, well, don't call us, we'll call you. But,
fair enough. I think there's among all the album covers, I was looking, and I couldn't see who was doing them, but they do seem to have they all sort of look alike. So I'm assuming it was the same artist.
Yes. Yeah. His name's Gabriel T. Byrne. He lives in Germany now, but he originally, well, I think originally he might be from New Mexico or something, but he lived around here in Seattle when basically when we were first starting to get going as a band, and he was also playing in a band at the time. But he also was doing paintings, and that ended up turning into him doing the art for To Kill Is Human. And we've basically just always kept working with him because his works are fucking amazing. Because we like working with him, because he's a great guy, because he's a fan and loves working with us. So it's something that we'll certainly continue to do.
I think it's, I back to COVID and the coronavirus, I just think it's funny because plagues and disease and pestilence are nothing new to the metal scene. Every one of those is a band name and has, but you guys seem to have been singing about plagues and disease and pestilence for years and years and years now. It's definitely a running theme. So when COVID strikes, do you sit back and you go, oh, fuck, we were right?
A little bit, yeah. It's kind of a trip actually, because you write about it and you think you're writing about hundreds of years ago, and it turns out, well, maybe you're writing about 30 years from now in a way, 30 or something, some distance, some time back when that was. But yeah, I mean, it was in part that when Kelly was first kind of cooking up the whole idea, he was reading about plagues and thought it'd be a good name and a good theme. All the lyrics on the first demo are plague themed. And so it was something that just as, we continued going, I continued writing lyrics. It just seemed like a theme that, could keep coming back to. And so kind of have, and it's what's was kind of strange is basically the when things went to shit, we were starting to how did we just finished up the recording? We just finished up the drum recording, I think. I don't remember, because we recorded it during the we recorded the guitars and the vocals during the plague. I forget dates and times pretty easily. But where was I going with this?
The plague.
Oh yeah. So there's a couple of songs on the new record that kind of have a plague theme going on, and but the only one that I actually wrote after the plague started was the title track. And when I started actually writing it out, it was pretty much directly about what I was seeing about people just being fucking morons and essentially marching to their possible deaths. And so I wrote out a lot of what became the lyrics, and I looked at them and it's like, I don't want to use this because I'm writing I don't want to write shit that like is so topical. It's like you read or listen to it a few years later and it's like, oh, he was talking about like, this time. So, but I kind of came around to that because there were already the plague themes. So it's like, that doesn't make much sense. And then I also, kind of like built out the theme just a little bit more about like how it wasn't necessarily just this going on, but also religion period doing this for fucking ever, sickening and killing people. So not surprising to just see it go on and on.
In reading some of your past interviews, it seems like you sort of embrace the underground tag that you've gotten. And I was just curious how you feel about that, because I sometimes I think it could be used as a point of pride, and sometimes it can be a backhanded compliment, you know, like, so I'm kind of curious about your feelings about that term. And
Yeah, I mean, that's a little hard to answer. You know, I don't think any of us would mind, you know, being a little better off or whatever. I mean, you know, we're the point that at least we have there's a little, at least, you know, at least we're not losing money out the ass doing this. I don't think we can say that we're actually making any. It's probably just, you know, at best self-sustaining kind of thing. But you know, at the same time, you know, I'm not sure that we're in a position to go be like a workhorse band, to be like, you know, on the road for months, record an album, go on the road for months again. Maybe, you know,
you guys have got, like I'm looking at your catalog, and
what I like is the underground stuff. I mean, I'm not a fan of the polished stuff. I like, you know, I like the, you know, dark evil death metal. I like the, you know, brutal and grim black metal, and, you know, I don't really want them polished or polluted. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not that much of a diehard. You know, I've got my Maiden shirt going here because Iron Maiden is probably the best band in the world. But Senjutsu fucking rules. Also, if anyone doesn't know that, they're a fucking moron. But I mean, yeah, I'm not sure I'd want to be, you know, that big of a band.
Yeah. Well, self-sustaining, first off, is nothing to sneeze at. I'm sure that doesn't even cover, like, you know, what percentage of metal bands are actually making money. It's you know, 2.
Oh yeah,
1%.
Yeah, 1% tops.
Yeah. I mean, I thought you were talking about maybe 2 bands. Yeah.
2 bands.
1 band, Cannibal Corpse.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. They're making a living. Them and Obituary, they're like, yeah, but self-sustaining, I mean, that's awesome in itself.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say it's paying our bills or anything, you know.
No, but you know, it doesn't
at
least, you know, you don't feel like you're throwing money away either. So
yeah. We've been able to, like, go on, you know, road trips or, you know, go play festivals and end up with enough to not end up, you know, to basically pay for our tickets and shit like that. So,
and you've been able to consistently record for 20, 30 years, like, and that's just really super impressive all alone. I mean, I have some notes that you're saying you, like, almost broke up in 2012, but I mean, other than that, you have a run where you're, like, recording an album every year, every other year for, you know, a ton of time. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, that we basically just, you know, wanted to keep doing it because it's kind of what we want to do. Kelly's a creative individual and wants to create stuff, so he's always doing that. You know, I like to write, love to perform when we can actually do that. So it's, you know, we just kind of kept going. Never really had any serious threat of breaking up, other than just, I mean, wasn't even really a threat other than so much when Dario stepped down. We were basically kind of, in a sense, back to square one, because we'd had a jam spot, we had a band that was functioning and playing stuff, and we'd recorded an album, and yada yada. And so then when he stepped down, we gave up our rehearsal studio because it was expensive as fuck in the first place, and so there's no point in paying for it if we, you know, until we were gonna know we were going to be able to actually use it. And so it took some time to actually get back to the lineup that we have now. And so that was, you know, a time that not too much happened. And it was, you know, there was maybe, like, you know, a thought here or there that will like, well, is this going to happen? Or are we going to be able to find somebody? You know, we've certainly done some great works and done some fun shit if we haven't, but you know, I don't think either Kelly or I seriously thought that we would stop doing this, just because I don't think that either of us could stop. You know, we want to stop. We want to do this until we're physically unable to, or drop dead.
I guess let's talk a little bit about your influences. I've seen you list, I want to say Morbid Angel, and who else? Immolation. I think I was talking to Peter earlier. What did you say? You hear a little incantation in there?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
well, that would, I mean, that's kind of the heart of where our sound derives from, is, you know, when we were kind of starting with this idea of doing this shit, you know, we'd just seen Altars of Madness released, shortly thereafter, Dawn of Possession, and not too long after that, Onward to Golgotha. And all of those were just like amazing, like unbelievable new things. You know, no one had played like fucking Altars. Dawn of Possession's like about the purest expression of death metal possible. And then Incantation took that sort of idea and then made it all twisted and weird. And like in between that, that's just kind of like summed up where our sounds derive from. But influences wise, it's a lot broader than that too. Cause you know, just as some obvious ones, Kelly's a real fan of Black Sabbath, always has been. So I think that's why like Incantation's often one that people really peg because of the Black Sabbath influence, which I know comes into Incantation too. I know John's a fan. So yeah, that kind of, obviously we aren't sludgy and groovy, but the way that, you know, a lot of the guitar parts are very influenced, you know, Ami influenced. You know, he's a fan of, you know, the Beatles and pop music, and, or, you know, basically like pop music construction sometimes influences, you know, how we put together songs. It's like, you know, learning, you know, writing a song, you know, you have a verse and a chorus. And so it's ends up sounding a bit more memorable than if you're just stringing a string of riffs together. Not that you can't do that and be cool. And then, you know, but usually if you have some, you know, actual song structure, it's a bit better. But then like, there's also, you know, in a way, or, you know, kind of influenced by everything that, you know, you kind of come across. So there's, you know, there's plenty of influence certainly from other bands from the time, like, you know, the Bolt Thrower Carcass and stuff. You know, some black metal influence seeped in when De Mysterious and Dark Throne, you know, started coming around, and it's like, oh, this shit's fucking cool and nasty and eerie, and those are some like cool ideas. And, you know, just that sort of thing that I can't think offhand that we've like incorporated a whole lot of newer stuff than that, but I don't know, there's like a couple ideas maybe, but basically it's like the whole, you know, unless you're just kind of like sitting in your bedroom, everything is going to kind of influence you in one way or another, whether it's like something that you want to do or something that you figure you want to stay far away from.
I guess let's maybe talk about the Seattle scene. Curious, I'm trying to think of who else we've influenced, interviewed from around there. Some Vancouver bands, Orok. I'm assuming that Seattle and Vancouver, you guys play both cities, or there's.
Yeah, I mean, it's not quite as back and forth because the border's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But we've gone up to Canada, play a couple of times. at the Covenant Festival up there. Actually, we're gonna play 2020, but that didn't happen, obviously. But yeah, I mean, we're certainly in contact with a lot of those people, and we know those guys in Oraka, Mitochondrion, and some of the other characters up there. It's basically kind of Seattle and Portland are a little bit of a closer bond, probably just because it's it's a little bit longer, but it's just the same highway without a border. So, but there's killer bands down there too.
Let's drop some names. Who do you like from Portland? So I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, what I'm thinking of is the old Portland bands like Die Infernal, but Die Infernal and Gorge. I guess Gorge is still going. And I just, I'm bad. I haven't kept up on a lot of that shit.
No problem. I mean, no, because I was talking to Peter before the interview, and I was saying that like one of the best things I love about the interviews is just finding out about new bands and stuff we might not have heard before. So I definitely love to ask people who they've liked to play with. What are your best shows? Obviously you're playing that big festival, 3-day festival coming up. But just like who in the past have you liked to play with, and who was not surprisingly good, but like just who have you loved to play with, and who are some bands we should check out?
Well, we played with a pretty fucking wide array of bands by now. Like from the Judas Priest cover band British Steel, and Nevermore fairly early on.
Oh, okay.
To Antaeus and Revenge and Krieg. So there's and then like we even played with Phobia one time. I mean we played some weird shit, but I mean it's always fun when you play shows with bands that people in. So we've gotten to play with Immolation, for example. Met those guys a bunch of times. Mass Kill guys, of course. I could go on. I'm happy when I've gotten to play with a band that I really like or whatever. It's like mentioned that we got to play with Antaeus, and if you'd asked me like back before if I'd ever get a chance to play with them, also big fan. So it was like unbelievable that it happened, and it did. And there's a bunch of those. Other things that are awesome is when we've gotten to play killer festivals, which we've gotten to do a decent handful of, mostly more recently. When we got to play Maryland Death Fest a few years ago, it was maybe 13, or maybe more recent, 15, maybe. The years they go. But that was fucking amazing. Got to play on the Ram's Head stage, which has killer sound. Actually, a friend of ours was able to get behind the mixing desk, so he was able to mix us just the fucking sound, so you'd like hear myself crystal fucking clear, and sounded amazing out in the audience apparently. Then more recently we've gotten to travel to some amazing shows, like we got to go do Total Death Over Mexico with fucking countless fucking sick bands. Shit like Funebrarum, Mitochondrion, Interment, Crypts from Finland, Bands like that were like kind of the top tier. Venom from Germany. Then there were bands like us. Force of Darkness from Chile played. Some other sick Chilean bands like Godless and Invocation. Mortuary from Mexico. Just shit tons of killer bands. An amazing time. The people doing the festival were just like, they went out of the way to take care of us, like took us out to the ruins, had a bunch of food for us at a bar that, tab open for a while. And, then there was the festival itself, which was a lot of fun. And so that was fucking amazing. A little before that, we'd gotten to go do a short tour in Japan, which
shit.
Fucking is unbelievable. It's just, is pretty indescribable. I mean, it's, the scene's really small, but the people are diehards. It was super strange because, it's such an alien culture, meant not in any like negative way, but just like, it isn't like you go to, say Germany or something or France and they're like, oh, that language is a little like mine. I mean, oh, I recognize that word. And like, a good amount of these people speak English. And so if I like ask somebody, someone's going to be able to help me with something probably. And it's not as much like that in Japan. It's like, obviously the characters are like completely different. And then like the amount of people speaking English is a lot less. And so that's like, and then there's, the things are different. And the things are like, it's like, there's a big quickie mart and it's like stocked with Japanese beer. And there's like, they have beer vending machines in places, in a couple of places. And that's like just on the streets.
That's crazy. I never heard that before, but.
Yeah, it's wild over there.
Unfortunately, like one night when I really wanted to find one, I couldn't find one, but that was kind of a pisser. But and on top of it, it wasn't anything that we had anyone taking us around other than like the people. Basically, we went with another band, Petrification from Portland, and one of their bandmates' girlfriends was kind of like helping take the booking and managing and etc. And so other than us, I mean, it was us doing it. So we were basically lugging our own shit on the trains, following this itinerary and hoping we're getting where we're going. And it was crazy. But then we get to the shows and they're fucking amazing. We had to play the Asakusa Death Fest, which is the biggest underground fest in Japan. And that was, what was it? Convulsed from Finland headlined, and there was Unholy Grave and God, who else? Lots of killer bands like Galvanizer from Finland and Discord from Norway. It was Necrophile from Japan played, Intestine Ballism, a bunch of like killer underground bands. And,
it's funny. I always say in my interviews that I love to put as many links in the description as I can about all the stuff that we've talked about.
You'll have a lot of work there.
This interview, it's gonna be like super long, so I'm like, oh fuck, man, I can't even imagine trying to find all that shit. But I'll try to get a good amount of it down there in the description for anybody who wants to come and check out some bands.
Yeah, those Intestine Ballism records are fucking insane.
Yep.
So good.
Killer too. They were really killer.
How did that get set up for you guys? Like, how did you get in contact with like the Japanese, like the venues and stuff?
At the time, these people in the Petrification were helping us out with some, doing booking outreach basically. And so they were doing it and we went along. That in a nutshell.
That rolls. Hell yeah.
It was fucking killer.
How many shows did you play in Japan?
So, hails to those guys too. Petrification from Portland.
Yeah. Cheers.
How many dates did you get to play in Japan?
We got to play 4. It was one in Osaka, and then the other two were essentially Tokyo area. There was Yokohama, and then a pre-fest show in Japan, in the area of Japan that was kind of like the cross between. It was kind of like the like porno Las Vegas. It was pretty cool. And that show we got to Coffins headlined it, and it was sold out. It was 100 people place. It was like, yeah, it was all packed.
I've always said that some of the best shows I've ever seen is when you stuff 500 people into a 100 person venue.
Oh yeah,
that's
the places that was the things. The places were small. I mean, the Asakusa place is like, it's a more decent sized place, but it's probably still only a few hundred. The place we played in Osaka, it was like down the place to play was down 2 flights of stairs. It basically looked like you were setting up in the corner of someone's living room. The bar was another flight downstairs, but there was all sorts of flyers that pretty much every hardcore band and et cetera had passed through there. So these aren't like little fly-by-night places. It seems like they're like they're the places that stuff happens.
Yeah, I mean, I always used to make a joke that CBGB's was the size of my living room, because it was. but that's kind of what made it awesome, because it was just fucking always wall. I mean, this is now going back to my teenage years when I was a little crazier, but it was just always, it couldn't not be packed, So like, it was just always wall to wall people. You could never see the floor. And, the band people were, the minority on the stage. Like it was just fucking mayhem all the time.
Oh yeah. Those were the days.
Peter, do you have anything else? Okay, maybe we'll just.
Yeah. I guess my only question is, I'm always like interested in like the songwriting process. So do you guys like kind of like write a lot of your songs together in your space, or do like you and Kelly kind of like come up with the ideas like on your own, and then you're like, this is like the song I have, and then you pretty much play it?
It's kind of been different at different times. More recently, just because it's been a more efficient way to do it, because we haven't always had times that we can do regular rehearsals. Sometimes we do, but other times we haven't. Fortunately now we have, which is great. But so more recently, it's been a matter of basically Kelly comes up with riffs and song structure idea. And we'll usually also put it to a click track, and then it's drums and then guitar, or drums and then bass are fleshed out. And then once the song is in kind of a finished state, I write vocals for it. I usually prefer to have the song as complete as possible before I get vocals at least completed, so that I can, get whatever vibe I can get from the song.
Yeah.
To like influence the lyric idea or something.
Cool.
You mentioned playing to a click track. Do you ever pre-record a guitar part to, try to work on those dual guitars, or is it mostly like the bass playing the guitar part? Like what?
Yeah, we've got, obviously the bass plays the guitar part in some places. I like to try to, do what I can to at least, offer some counterpoint or offset or emphasis, although that's not always called for. So I don't always do it. What was that question again?
Well, just about writing, Peter was asking about writing the music, and I think it just goes back to my prior question about the dual guitars.
Yeah.
And if you ever use a pre-recorded system or something to just try to figure the shit out.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got recording. It's not a facility, but we've got a recording console at the rehearsal space. And that's actually where the guitars and bass and vocals have been recorded for the last couple albums. And so we definitely have the ability to and Kelly does work on guitar ideas with the scratch tracks that we've got recorded.
So you record the drums elsewhere, and then the guitars and bass and maybe vocals you do in your rehearsal space?
Yeah. That's how we've done the last couple, at least.
Okay.
And you guys track them and then send them off to get mixed?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds fucking awesome. The new album sounds really good.
Yeah, we're amazed with the final sound of it.
I guess let's just close it out by figuring out what you guys are doing in the future, and if you have any future plans. Like, obviously the album just dropped in July, so you're probably just like still in the afterglow of that. But you know, what are we thinking about the future?
Oh yeah, we're sitting in the glow. But actually, no, there's more going on. There's some stuff that's actually essentially done. We did a kind of strange collaboration project with a friend of ours that's going to end up being a split release with Ravenous Death from Mexico. And so that's like basically be us doing songs that are like slightly different, not different, but like, you know, maybe a couple like ideas or something that you hadn't heard in Drawn and Quartered before. And to be clear, it's not necessarily going to be indicative of a future style. It's just kind of a thing that it's like an idea that we've, basically something to do. And there is also, if everything goes well, another split 7-inch in the works. And there's we're focusing on things even beyond that.
Cool. So you said some collaboration projects.
Yeah.
I always think those are cool. I've known some people who have done splits where they do guest appearances too and shit and weird stuff, and I always think that's like super interesting.
Yeah. This will actually include that. This will include that. We've I did as far as vocals on the Drawn and Quartered material, our collaborator had him do some lead lines on one of the tracks, and then some additional backing vocals and some backing vocals from the Ravenous Death guys. Then I've contributed some backing vocals to theirs as well. And I think there was probably a guitar solo trade or something like that as well. So that's definitely going on. So that'll be cool. I think that'll end up coming out on a Mexican label at some point. Maybe Vomit Records, but I'm not sure of that.
Cool.
I think we'll wrap it up then. Herb, I really appreciate you coming on. I wish I could make it out to the West Coast to see that show again. Like, I'm a fan of like Haunter and Oryx, and we just had to come on. Fucking awesome band. So I'm like super jealous that you get to play that show, but you also get to see the show. But yeah, the new album is fucking sick, and we'll plug it where we can. But I super appreciate you guys, you coming on, and
absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thanks everybody.
All right, hail Satan.